Well, hi everyone, Shaun Humphries here. Welcome to this edition of the Take Charge or Change podcast. In this edition of the podcast, we're going to talk about the importance of getting very clear on your values. Values clarification, being clear on the values that you have, is a critical step in cultivating personal and professional resilience and change and transition readiness. You'll enjoy this edition of the podcast. So in our last podcast, we talked about the importance of getting very clear on our purpose, and we had a few questions and exercises for you to go through to get clear on that question. If you have not already done so, I'd encourage you to download the free ebook, The Resilient Professional, and in Chapter 4, we're unpacking the notion of purpose, cultivating purpose, getting clear on our values, our mission, vision in life, and of course our goals and action plan. Values are really important because they sort of percolate under the surface, and we want to spend a few minutes just talking about values, and I've got an exercise that you can go through to begin investigating some of your core values. You don't want to be unconscious of your values because they drive a lot of your actions without you knowing it sometimes, and if you live a life that is consistent with your values, you're going to live a life that's more fulfilled and complete. So let's take a more detailed look at values, and I've got a few points here just to cover off. So values answer the following kinds of questions. How do I want to treat others and myself as I work towards a better future? How do I choose to act and behave and make decisions? What do I really believe in, and what will I stand up for? What's the most important to me, and why? What do I expect of myself, even at the worst of times? What is worth spending my energy, time, and money on? What deserves my focus? What really matters? What has real value to me? So when it comes to values, this is a great paragraph that I've put into the ebook, and it's from the book True North by Michael Henderson. And I'll just read this paragraph because I think if you're trying to wrestle with the concept of values, this is a good introduction. Values capture and express what is important to us in life and in business. They are abstract concepts presented by words, which, if they have to have any real meaning, must be experienced and lived rather than just written and talked about. Values are not physical objects. For example, money is not a value, but the things it represents are, such as security, wealth, power, and freedom. Individuals demonstrate their values through their decisions about how they act and behave towards others, and how to spend their time, energy, and money. An organization demonstrates its values in its actions, systems, decisions, and strategies. The preferences and priorities of an organization can be identified simply by watching the organization at work. Okay? So these values that we have are often subtle, they're subconscious, they're embedded. But a great example of getting clear on values would be something along the lines of, let's say, a core value of mine is to spend time with my family, to cultivate relationship with my children. And then when I reflect on that core value and scan how I've handled my time over the last several weeks, I may come to the conclusion that I'm actually not organizing my day in a way that's consistent with those values. When I look at my week, I've spent a lot of time maybe working on hobbies, maybe a lot of time at work, working on projects. But at the end of the day, I don't see a lot of time spent with my kids building relationship as part of my weekly schedule. Now, if in fact cultivating relationship is a core value that you have, if that was my core value, then there's a great sort of wake-up call there where I need to reorientate my schedule to become much more consistent with that core value. So sometimes we forget about those values. They're simmering, but we allow other priorities to get in the way. So if I stopped in that moment, reorientated my schedule, began spending more time with my children, then ultimately, internally, I'm going to get more of an alignment. I'm going to feel more aligned internally and have a better sense of completeness and fulfillment. So there's a little exercise in the book, The Resilient Professional, and I'll just go to that right now. Let's take a look at it. So this exercise is action item 4.1, and it's entitled Identifying Your Values, Digging a Little Bit Deeper. And I just have, these are not all the words that encompass all the values out there, but I would encourage you to go through this exercise and then write out the 5 most important values that you might have as you go through these questions. So the action item is review each of these values and circle the ones that immediately resonate with you. Don't try to overthink this exercise. Allow your mind and heart to be free to guide you to those values that whisper the loudest. Okay, so examples here: balance, character, commitment, compassion, concern for others, courage, creativity, excellence, happiness, growth, generosity, humility, health, harmony, openness, responsibility, perseverance. There's a number of values there. What I'd like you to do is to go to that exercise and then write down the top 5, and if in fact those values are really important to you, then you want to reflect on, are you actually doing things day to day that are consistent with those values that you describe as being important to you? And of course, if you're not doing things consistent with those values, how can you change up your schedule and your priorities so you're working out of those core values in your life? Okay, so last week we talked about cultivating purpose. This week we're talking a little bit about values, and I've got another exercise I'll talk about in a future podcast for you to really drill into this values discussion much more deeply. Well, I hope you enjoyed this conversation and this podcast. If you lead people, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to start a conversation about how we can help you and your organization to be cultivating both professional and personal resilience for your teams and your staff so they can navigate life changes and business changes, organizational changes more successfully.